So I'm doing this? I'm really doing this? Okay. Hey guys, so there are many reasons that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is one of, if not the greatest game ever made. So why am I taking this negative approach?
Don't worry, I'll tell you later. Just hurry and meet me at the terminal. Get the money and the passports, pack up. Bring half what you brought from the last spot. Don't worry.
I just want to make it clear that I've played about 100 hours of this so far, and I haven't even experienced the entire game yet, so there's a lot left to be found. The world itself is overwhelmingly massive. The way the game plays out, being both open world and storyline driven, makes for a really challenging development process to merge those things together seamlessly. And it became more obvious the more I played it that the game lacks some severe direction with the storyline. The best way to explain what I mean is take a look at the other Zeldas, especially Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. Getting the Master Sword required you to get the 3 medallions, then you entered the Dark World, then you had 8 more dungeons after the Light World dungeons, then you fought Ganon, and there was a bunch of stuff to be found on the world map, and it was massive in itself for the time. And then you move on to Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64, which had 9 dungeons and 3 mini-dungeons, along with a massive open world itself with tons of secrets to be found in it. And then we skip ahead to Breath of the Wild that has 4 dungeons, and Hyrule Castle, which I guess you could kind of count that as a 5th dungeon. So when you compare it to those games, it's lacking pretty heavily in the dungeon department. And sure, some fans will argue that in Breath of the Wild they have a seemingly endless amount of shrines to make up for the lack of dungeons, but for me personally, I really enjoyed the dungeons in the previous Zeldas because of the interlocking parts and the complicated nature of where to go and what to do next. That's completely missing from most of this game except for the 4 dungeons included. As far as progression is concerned in the game, the whole point of the shrines was to build up your energy and stamina to make Link a stronger character. But to be completely honest, once you get enough hearts to get the Master Sword, it kind of renders the rest of the shrines useless. I mean, you can do them for fun, but once you have the Master Sword, you don't really need more health, because health in this game is literally everywhere. But we'll come back to that. If you've been reading reviews and listening to what a lot of the professionals are saying about it, people are taking issue with the weapon durability mechanic in the game, and that's actually something that I didn't have too much of a problem with. I liked how it forced the player to take a look at the situation from a different perspective, like throwing a bomb at a group of enemies or blowing up the cans next to them, instead of just hack and slash through the whole game. However, the issue I did have with weapon durability was after you got the Master Sword, it kind of rendered the whole mechanic useless, and you just have a surplus of weapons the rest of the game. And very rarely did you even need to use them. For some reason, the developers decided not to allow you to sell weapons. So instead, you just find yourself dropping weapons for the next half of the game because you can't hold anymore. And speaking of, I didn't even know you could increase your weapon slots with Korok seeds until I looked it up online after I beat the game. The game just gives you a subtle, if you accumulate enough of these, something special might happen, but there was no directive or anything to do with it when I was getting them. But even with the default amount of slots that the game gives you at the beginning, I did beat the game fairly easily. Because again, there is health literally everywhere. You can go take on Ganon at any point in the game after gaining the abilities at the beginning, something speedrunners absolutely love, but for the rest of us, or maybe just me, it lessens the motivation to play through the entire game. The sole reason to get the memories is for the quote-unquote good ending. The sole reason to get all the shrines is to get a new set of armor. I won't post pictures for spoiler reasons, but what's the incentive in going through all that work when you can beat the game without doing that? And speaking of armor, there's a whole lot of it, and some of it's actually extremely useful, like climbing or swimming faster, or more powerful versus guardians. But unless you know exactly where to go or what to do for most of it, you won't even encounter it before you beat the game, rendering it useless except for post-game exploration and completionists. Which, yes, I'm still doing, but It could have made the game so much more engaging if they found a way to integrate it throughout the storyline to get it as you go, but not require it. The one big point I'm trying to make is this game really needs a hard mode. Like, really, really needs a hard mode. Yes, I understand it's included with the DLC purchase separately and coming out in the summer, arbitrary generalized time frame by Nintendo, but the game is way too damn easy as it stands right now. Yes, even if you suck and die a lot, which you probably will, the game autosaves so often that it's over-forgiving. There is no punishment for dying other than being set back a few steps. And the food to refill your health is incredibly over-plentiful throughout the game. Fairies are everywhere, and if you can't find them, simply just travel to a great fairy and catch 3 or 4 of them at a time. And they're on top of the endless amounts of food that you can cook. Well, Jeff, you may be asking, how the hell would you make it better? Well, I'm glad you probably didn't ask. The save points aren't the biggest issue, especially if the game is made harder. They would actually help curb the frustration you get from the deaths, so I wouldn't change that. I would, however, change the amount of food found literally everywhere on the map. You can't take 20 steps without stumbling over a mushroom or bumping into an apple tree. I also would have made Kilton, the monster vendor, a far more integral part of the shop mechanic in the game, and cut the food availability on the map down by at least 75%. By the time I actually knew of the existence of Kilton, I'd already beaten the game and gotten all the memories. This would have made for far more motivation to fight monsters and get meaningful rewards for your time. It was far too easy without this in place. The ultimate motivation for playing the game should have been to defeat Ganon, and should have forced the player to jump through way more hoops in order to accomplish that feat. As it stands right now, without a hard mode, the game lacks any kind of sincere motivation outside of player-forced challenges or devoted completionists. And for the reasons I've mentioned here, I personally didn't feel a great sense of satisfaction when I actually defeated Ganon like I had in the previous Zelda games. Zelda Breath of the Wild still stands as one of the best games ever created. Hard to believe after everything I'm bitching and moaning about here. It has a gigantic world, its seemingly endless amount of secrets to uncover, and especially during battles the gameplay really shines. The action is spot on when fighting monsters. It's just really unfortunate that the game was so easy to breeze through. Maybe a hard mode will fix part of that, but it isn't coming until summer. And even if the game is made more challenging, I still can't help but question some of the decisions made to make the food so available everywhere, the armor and shield overload throughout the adventure, and weapon systems and shop mechanics seemingly completely broken, in my mind at least. My only true hope with this hard mode is that it makes the game so incredibly hard that you really do have to go through and get all these things to make it worth it. Which is what they should have done the first time around. Maybe they just gotta dumb down the games for kids these days, who knows. I mean, to me this game is a clear 10 out of 10, but at the same time I can totally see why someone like Jim Sterling gives it a 7 out of 10. To each their own, I suppose. All that and no hookshot? Are you serious, Nintendo? No hookshot? Bring it back. Come on, that thing was badass. I mean, I completely love this game. Don't get me wrong. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed my Zelda rant video, even though I absolutely love the game and it's like pretty much the best thing ever. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe with the circle button up there and check out my other Zelda videos over here. Talk to you later.